guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys.
And now, get ready for the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast with your hosts, John Kane and Dan Buxton.
Hey folks, my name's John Kane and this is the delightful Dan Buxton, and welcome to episode 19 of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast, another landmark podcast for two underachievers who had no other way of redeeming their revenge on countless high school assholes who shamed us for loving songs about science and philosophy. With each episode, we hope to remind them of their less than mediocre iTunes libraries. And for anyone looking for something else, you won't find it here. This show is about Rush and nothing else. It's not two guys talking Esteban. It's two guys. It is not. It's two guys talking the enormously iconic Rush. So listen in and discover the motherlode of all Rush podcasts, Two Guys Talking Rush. Dan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little sleepy, I have to concede. I was up late watching election returns, which is probably a stupid idea. When you're younger and you come into work, a little bleary-eyed and that sort of thing, it's because you were out drinking or something like that. I'm now at the age where it's like I was watching TV, and that's why I have to pay for it the next day. So this is a preview of the aging process for all of you out there who might be concerned about what it's like. Yeah. Otherwise, big ups to Ken Hensley of Uriah Heep, who passed a couple of days ago. I love that band. I have loved them for many years. He was really, during their whole classic period, he was really like the guy. And respect, sir, and, whatever you say to someone after they've passed.
It feels like that. Well, I'm glad you did, because it feels like every episode we're giving our condolences and sympathies to somebody. People are kind of like getting to that age where they're, feeling the rigors of aging and cancer and all sorts of other things. Now, I don't want to bring the audience down, but it is our duty to recognize these iconic figures in rock and roll history.
Rush opened for Uriah Heep very early on in their career, like right after Neil had joined the band.
Right.
And Mick Box, the guitar player from Uriah Heep, talks about them in Behind the Lighted Stage.
Right.
And said that, you probably remember the two things, his first two thoughts about the band were, wow, that guy can sing really high and they're going to do well. And he was right. So here we are.
Yep. Yeah. So our sympathies. And so, I'm glad you mentioned it as well. And we're not a political show. But we are in the United States of America here, and if you're listening from other parts of the world, which I know you are, because I look at the analytics of this podcast, we have fans from all over the planet, and thank you to those far and away fans. Yeah. We're okay here in America. We're going to get through this no matter what. We will survive no matter what the outcome is here. And it's not the elephant in the room. It is election week, and it is a shit show. So no matter who you support, it is what it is, and we're here to talk about Rush and kind of get through that.
We record in advance, right. So hopefully by the time this airs in a couple of weeks or whatever, we'll have a result and we will have moved on and all that sort of thing. But
something will happen.
We're not a political show, though, and we're not going to talk about who we like or what we hope or anything like that, because we love you all.
That's right.
Regardless of how you vote or don't vote, and we're not here to get into any of that other shit.
We embrace all people here on Rush. Two guys talking.
We do. But you deserve an explanation for the bags under my eyes. So there we are.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah.
remember, folks, this show is hosted by fans for fans, and our listeners know we are inclusive. Each week, we try to mix it up with guests and content, and we want fans to join us on this magnificent journey. Before I forget, I want to thank our guest on episode 18, author and rock metal music historian, Martin Popoff. What a legend. That was so much fun. I love talking to Martin and kind of dissecting, last show we dissected album covers, which I thought was a blast. As a reminder, his latest book, Limelight, Rush in the 80s, the second book in his third part, Rush Across the Decade series, officially released earlier this month. The first book in the series was Anthem, Rush in the 70s, and Martin was on show number 2 supporting that, which released back in May. And the third book will be titled Driven, Rush in the 90s and in the End, which is currently slated for release in April. Wow, he's a busy guy. You can order your copy of Limelight, Rush in the 80s. He's probably writing right now. He probably like writes in his sleep, you know.
He was probably writing while he was on the podcast with us. Like,
he kept turning away. He kept turning his head. Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know how he does it. I do not know how he does it. Like, for my day job, I have to turn over a certain amount of words every day.
Yeah, sure.
This guy is a lunatic. I don't know how he does it, but
he's the Stephen King of rock.
Something, exactly.
Rock journalists. Anyway, or rock writers. You can order your copy of Limelight, Rush in the 80s via Amazon and other online retailers. Martin also accepts orders for signed editions of his book on his website, martinpopoff.com. The imitation leather-bound book comes in at 375 pages, which includes 2 full-color photo inserts with 16 pages of the band on tour and in the studio. I think I mentioned before, I have a few of my photographs that are going to be showing up in his Rush in the 90s book, so I'll be looking forward to that. Cool. Yeah, definitely. So show plugs. As a reminder, you can hear our podcast on TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Simplecast, and others. This show is recorded in video, so please check out our YouTube channel and click subscribe. Do it now, folks. A quick Rush Radio shout out. You can find Rush Radio on your TuneIn app and at rushradio.org. You know, it's funny. I was listening to Rush Radio the other day, and they pulled up a real early live performance, I think 74, 75, where Geddy was thanking Donna Halper on stage live. I'm like, wow, I never heard that before.
That's the Cleveland show. I'm at Agora Ballroom. I have that bootleg, and I know that's one. That is a ferocious show. Also.
I know. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard the intro of that, but I heard the rest of the show. I don't think I have that portion of it. You have to forward me that show, man. You got to get it to me somehow.
Yeah. I don't know how that would happen.
Mail.
How is that done? I don't know. Moving on.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you, Ed Stenger of RushIsABand.com. We love Rush is a Band, as well as Power Windows websites at 2112.net. Check them out, folks, for all your new Rush content, Rush news. Another quick shout out to the mighty Why Not. Their music can be heard in the show's intro. I heard a Why Not track today. I think they have a newish album with some new tracks on it, and they're doing a special, they'll autograph the entire album and all that. I think I'm going to order it too. I heard a track off it. It's just incredible. Rush fans, we want to hear from you. If you have any comments, suggestions, ideas, or questions about the show or for the show, please submit them. We'd like to hear from you. You can email us at 2TWO, not the number 2 guys talking Rush at Gmail. We're always looking for super fans for our Rush Superfan Spotlight. What is a super fan? What makes you a super fan? Please email us and tell us why you think you should be on 2 Guys Talking Rush. I got another email this week. Can I read it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is from James. I'm not going to reveal James' last name. It's not James Hetfield for sure. Is James Hetfield? Is he a Rush fan? He must be.
I haven't heard him like really get into it about them. I know Lars is.
Yeah, good.
But I just assume probably. It would be surprising to me if he wasn't.
Yeah, I never heard him down
but
Rush.
I've never heard him say one way or the other. No.
I don't think they've ever covered Rush, Metallica covering Rush. That wouldn't make much sense.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, outstanding podcast. This is from James. Outstanding podcast covering the underappreciated twin Rupert Hine albums. Although there is a reason they are not as enthusiastically embraced by fans, parenthetical, and the band itself, given all the production aspects of counterparts, and as explicitly noted in interviews with Geddy and Alex, end parenthetical. And I think mostly due to the lack of bottom end / heaviness, the songwriting on the two albums is as good as any other era of the band's discography, parenthetical, minus the peak AFTK-MP quartet, which stands on its own. I remember, and parenthetical, I remember these albums in context quite well. Show Don't Tell was marketed as a return to form, end quote. Heavier song around the time I was going through first year training in the armed forces, while Roll the Bones was introduced, though through, I believe, a world rockline broadcast, parenthetical, featuring in particular the haunting and beautiful Ghost of a Chance, end parenthetical. I was particularly thrilled to hear that you featured as favorites two songs that I have similar appreciation for, Chain Lightning and The Big Wheel. I also was pleased to hear you remark on the version of Dreamline on different stages, which I had mentioned before. I think that's a wonderful take of that song. Parenthetical, I think the version on R30 is also quite superb, and parenthetical. The version, in a way, kind of points to the aforementioned lack of bottom end on the studio version. Again, excellent episode / very enjoyable to listen to now that we've live in a world where there'll be no additional new Rush music. So thanks, James, man. You hit the nail on the head about this show.
Yeah.
We're here to serve fans like you, and keep the emails coming, folks. Even if you don't like us, we'll read your emails on there, as long as they're not too they don't contain too much profanity or hurt. We don't want to.
We're very sensitive about that kind.
Yeah, I know, Dan. You could break out and cry at any time.
Any minute. Yeah.
Well, you can also visit us on our website, www.2guystalkingrush.com. It's not Two Guys Stalking Rush. We don't stalk Rush. It's Two Guys Talking Rush. Facebook.com / Two Guys Talking Rush, TWO Guys Talking Rush. And Twitter.com / the number 2 Guys Talk Rush. Two Guys Talk Rush at Twitter. Okay, I'm done with that. And again,
good night. We're out.
Bye-bye, folks. That was our show. And again, please subscribe to your Two Guys Talking Rush YouTube channel, to our YouTube channel. We want to get subscriptions. We record this show in a visual way, so you can see us and just check us out, because we're just that strikingly handsome.
Yes.
We're middle-aged blokes. Well, we're going live on November 21st, so join us on the Rush as a Band page and rushradio.org Facebook pages. Our feed will be shared. We'll be going live through Zoom, sharing the Zoom feed to Facebook, and then sharing that Facebook feed to Rush as a Band Facebook page and to rushradio.org. So that'll be a way for you to engage in the conversation, listen to us, watch us. We have a special guest. In the past, we've mentioned on our previous shows in our news segment, we've mentioned a committee that's tasked with producing a Neil Peart memorial in the late drummer's hometown of Port Dalhousie, which raised a bunch of money and needs help. The task force chair, David DiRocco, and task force member Chris O'Connor will be on with us live November 21st at 7 p.m. via Facebook. Join us for the conversation, and we'll hear about their involvement with Rush and what they're trying to do that's Rush related. Lots of fun, right?
Very nice.
I know. Well, speaking of raising money, as a reminder, we receive no revenue for doing this podcast. However, it does take a small amount to keep us going. If you're interested in fueling our passion to bring you the most up-to-date Rush news and awesome guests and content, please check out our Two Guys Talking Rush store at www.twoguystalkingrush.com, where you can acquire a coffee mug, a t-shirt, a button, stickers with our very cool logo on it. We also have a Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/twoguystalkingrush. If you want to throw in 50 cents a month or a dime, whatever you can do to help us keep this podcast going, because again, time and money and it's a lot of work. So
those are things, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So last week it was a pleasure covering our top 5 Rush album covers. I'm a graphic designer, so I really love getting into the history of this sort of thing. Getting super analytical about it. Hugh Syme Rush's the fourth member of Rush, right? The art director has been a real inspiration to me. And again, Hugh Syme is a Canadian Juno Award-winning graphic artist and a member of the Premier Artists Collection, PAC, as they call it, who is best known for his artwork and cover concepts for other rock and metal bands, and most importantly, Rush. He's also a musician, has appeared on some Rush songs as keyboard player. Syme is notably responsible for all of Rush's album covers since 1975's Caress of Steel, as well as creating Rush's famous Starman logo. Imagine that. In 1983, he said that he never imagined the band would ever use that as their main logo. And it's become really part of their brand, right? The Starman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, before we get deeper into other Rush news, over the past several weeks, as it relates to last week's episode with Martin Popoff, Ultimate Classic Rock has been posting excerpts from an interview they conducted with Hugh Syme, where he discusses the history and background of Rush's album cover art. So far, they've covered Counterparts, Farewell to Kings, and Caress of Steel. Over the past few weeks, 3 separate Rush albums celebrated release anniversaries, like Hemispheres, which turned 42, Exit Stage Left, turning 39, Power Windows celebrated its 35th anniversary. And in recognition of these milestones, this past week, Ultimate Classic Rock posted 3 more excerpts from their interview with Syme, where he's discussing the artwork on these 3 classic Rush albums. Here's what he had to say about Hemispheres. This is from Hugh Syme. He says, on that album, there was a lot of discussion about Dionysus and Apollo and the left brain, right brain theory. We have a calculating side of our nature, and we have a free-spirited side. Syme was inspired by the suit-clad man on Belgian surrealist René Magritte's 1946 painting, The Son of Man, and that figure folded perfectly into their conceptual framework. Quote, Peart is quoted as saying, Peart was a huge, or they're talking about Neil Peart, was a huge Magritte fan too. Syme adds, we discussed the stoicism of that man. The final image features a distinguished fellow played by Syme's longtime friend, Bobby King, standing rigidly on one side of the brain with a nude, elegant man on the other. Quote, we had this guy in a leotard, which just didn't suit rock and roll. Syme says of that latter model, who'd been studying at the Toronto Ballet School, quote, but it was also a big gamble to say, will anybody embrace a bare-ass guy on a cover? Question mark. It was a nod to the free spirit, unshackled by clothing and that sort of thing. That became the device for creating contrast. With Exit Stage Left, Syme explains why Rush nixed a proposed nod to Snagglepuss. Heavens to Murgatroyd, even. Remember Exit Stage Left?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, everybody grew up with that. Quote, I wanted to do nothing more than just a solid black cover with a pink tail and probably the back of Snagglepuss's ankle. I can envision that,
Easily.
Yeah, so this is what he says to Ultimate Classic Rock. Quote, a complete nod to Snagglepuss. I just wanted to keep it real pop art, graphic and simple. But that dream died after the animation studio got involved. Quote, we got in touch with Hanna-Barbera, who owned the rights, he adds, but apparently the ask on that was prohibitive. So that was quickly nixed. I even asked, can I at least put a pink tail on it somewhere? No one's going to know. There were too many legal beagles on that one saying, no, you better not. After that plan fell apart, Syme pivoted to another lighthearted art idea, reviving visuals from Rush's own visual universe. So that's where you get that kind of montage of
right.
On that cover. And it's a great cover. I love, didn't you say you love that? It was one of your covers, right?
That was one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention is, like, in their visual sense, there's humor, but not comedy. So you can look at one of the covers and you can appreciate, like, the wit and, like, oh, I see, I get what they're doing, but it's not, like, funny, and I think if they had done the Snagglepuss thing, that, I think that would have crossed a line that I can see them not really wanting to, it would just be too goofy.
Yeah, and it's a totally different style, but I often think of that artistic approach on Live Evil, Black Sabbath's Live Evil,
yes.
Ronnie James Dio. They use a lot of kind of figures from the story or the narrative
Right.
of Black Sabbath, Iron Man, Neon Knights, all this sort of stuff.
Mhm.
That's a great album cover. That's a great album. Live Evil. Oh, do you
The
like it?
subtopic of Dio making another appearance on Two Guys Talking Rush.
I know. Sorry, guys.
I don't. I mean, it's fine. I don't have any problems with it one
Yeah,
way or the other. But I don't look at it and like this is brilliant.
yeah.
The Black Sabbath cover that I like the most is Born Again,
That is a great cover.
which is nobody's favorite album
Yeah, I
cover.
know.
But Tony Iommi liked it.
Yeah. I still have
So
my Born Again T-shirt. It's very
oh,
faded.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't fit me anymore, but I look at it often. For the Power Windows album, Syme talks about how Geddy Lee was the driving force behind including the televisions and the artwork. And I mentioned this was one of my favorite album covers. At Lee's insistence, Syme revised the artwork to include a trio of televisions, adding another veneer of visual meaning. Parenthetically, he admits with a laugh, I remember feeling somewhere between annoyed and challenged when I heard this was a client requirement. In parenthetical. We only alluded to the Marshall McLuhan aspect of the TVs when we started talking about what was then our power window, he notes. Today, it's a handheld cell phone or tablet or laptop or whatever. Then, our power window to the world was a TV. It was controlling everything from our taste to our concept of what was news. So the TV became important, but the pun of a lone character with a misguided notion that he could control the room with his remote control was more important to me than the TVs. Tasked with finding the perfect televisions, Syme scoped out some vintage collector's item Philco sets at a Toronto store called the Red Indian. Quote, they were very generous to let me photograph those for reference, he says. I had to go back and re-gesso the canvas carefully in the area where I was going to feature these TVs because they were not in the original photo. Very interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, good. Well, I think, it's funny. All these little coincidences pop up with show topics. We had a show, our previous show with Martin Popoff. We were talking about the top 5 album covers. Then voila, I start to see this trending thing on the internet, like, oh, Rush album art. Like, that's a sign. We're going to talk about dig deeper into those subjects.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before, but the great thing about this band is that they can sustain an hour-long weekly podcast with like all kinds of different topics. It touches on everything. I mean, this is now 19 episodes, and I don't feel like we've really repeated ourselves much or anything like that. It's just because it's so fertile and there's so much there. You could just go on about it forever. Our upcoming guest today was a little concerned that won't that be boring just listening to me talk about Rush? And it's like, no, that's exactly why we're here. That's all we do.
He said that.
Well, I think more is like more kind of in like a little old me type of a set. We one thing that does come up is we ask people to be on the show who are not necessarily like famous people,
Right.
and they get a little like, well, why do you want to talk to me? I'm not that interested. Well, talk to someone more well known, or talk to a famous person. And that, to me, the spirit of the band is that it belongs to everybody, and everybody has a valid point of view about it. And even if you don't consider yourself like a lord of media or something like that,
Sure.
it's still interesting what people have to say and what their experiences are.
Yeah, totally. And if someone dedicated their life to painting Rush portraits, or it's just anybody that's involved with the band on some personal level is interesting to us. So yeah, I think that's important. Well, anyway, moving on to Rush news. In 1948, the Chicago Tribune misprinted the results of the U.S. presidential election with the headline reading "Dewey defeats Truman," later reproduced on the cover of Permanent Waves. Wow, what a coincidence! 1973,
right? Yes. I forgot about that. Yeah.
In 1973, Rush is at the Thunderbird Motor Inn in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. 1974, Rush at the Joint in the Woods in Parsippany, New Jersey, United States. 1974, Rush played the Agora Ballroom in Columbus, Ohio on the Rush Tour. 1975, Rush is at Montreal City Hall in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. 1975, Rush played the Silver Dollar Saloon in Lansing, Michigan on the Caressa Steel Tour. Oh, just to be at a place called the Silver Dollar Saloon.
Yeah,
See Rush.
exactly.
That must have been incredible. If anybody saw that show, we want you on Two Guys Talking Rush. In 1976, Rush played the Douglas Hall Fairgrounds in Roseburg, Oregon on the All the World's a Stage tour. In 1978, Rush plays Beeman Park Arena and Nanaimo, British Columbia on the Hemispheres tour. In 1978, Rush plays Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver, British Columbia on the Hemispheres tour. In 81, Rush play Wembley Arena in London, England on the Exit Stage Left tour. You can sense with these dates that they're just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
In 82, Rush play the Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio on the Signals tour. In 1982, Rush played the Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio. Oh, sorry, I mispronounced that. In 82, Rush played the Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio on the Signals tour with Rory Gallagher.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And I was investing more time in looking, because I know Lifeson was a fan of Rory Gallagher, and and I was like, when did he pass away? Because I didn't know he lived well into the 90s.
It was a long. I think it was like 30 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. Rush in 84, Rush played the Coliseum, Hampton, Virginia, and the Grace Under Pressure tour. In 87, they play the Coliseum in Moncton, New Brunswick on the Hold Your Fire tour. 91, Rush play the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota on the Roll the Bones tour with Eric Johnson. In 1991, they play the Civic Auditorium Arena in Omaha, Nebraska on the Roll the Bones tour. In 1994, Neil Peart appeared on the television talk show Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher in support of Burning for Buddy Volume 1.
Huh.
In 1996, they play the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the Test for Echo tour. In 1996, they play the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio on the Test for Echo tour. In 98, Tom Sawyer was released on the Waterboy soundtrack. The song was also heard during the film. In 2002, on today's episode of C-Lab 2021, one of the characters purchased a jukebox containing every Rush album ever made, even Caressa Steel.
Caressa Steel?
Yes.
Why even Caressa? We'll never know.
We'll never know. We'll find out. That's a good question for an entire episode. In 2002, Rush played the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio on the Vapor Trails tour. In 2005, on today's episode of Numbers, a computer screen name is seen ending in 2112. Wow, we're getting really micro here. 2006, the book Once Upon a Lifetime by Vincent M. Jeffries was released, containing many Rush-related anecdotes. Oh. And 2008, Geddy Lee and Rush were discussed on today's episode of the Canadian television series The Border. In 2008, one of my faves, Tenacious D's The Complete Masterworks 2 was released. When introducing the song The Metal, Jack Black references the spirit of radio with, quote, I hear machinery making modern music, end quote. I love Jack Black.
Yeah.
In 2009, In the Mall by Weezer was released on Radio Ratitude with a brief tribute to Tom Sawyer during the keyboard solo. In 2009, on today's episode of Gary Unmarried, Gary says the fees for his daughter's youth orchestra seem pretty expensive. I could see if they played a little Rush or ACD or something. In 2009, on today's episode of Gary yes, I already said that one. 2010, Rush was named 2010's Legend of Live at the Billboard Touring Awards. In 2012, Rush played the 1-800-ASK-GARY Amphitheater in Tampa, Florida on the Clockwork Angels tour. 2013, Alex Lifeson's self-portrait sold for $7,600 to benefit the 2013 Brush of Hope auction. And in 2016, finally, Rush, Time Stands Still, premiered in theaters for one night with an encore showing in the US and UK for 2 weeks later. There it is, folks. Rush in the news. Exclaim posted, exclamation point, posted an article this past week where several Canadian artists show off some of their favorite albums from their record collections. Kevin Camus and Cody Bowles of prog rock duo Crownlands. Each chose a Rush album, saying when we asked retro-minded rock duo Crownlands to share their most treasured albums, Kevin Camus and Cody Bowles each submitted their own photo holding a different Rush album. Bowles says, Caress of Steel to me has the most consistent goosebump-inducing vocal deliveries from Geddy Lee, some of my favorite drum tones, and my all-time favorite Rush song, The Fountain of Lambeth, caps it off. What a killer album. As for Kevin, he reveals, A Farewell to Kings changed my life. It set me off on a path I find myself on today. This is my favorite Rush record. Xanadu is the closest thing to magic I've ever heard. On my morning walk, Xanadu came on, and boy, the sun was shining down on me, and there was still like a little bit of a cool kind of breeze in the hot sun, and I just felt that. I heard the birds chirping in the song, and
it's so good.
It's magical.
That's probably like in one of my top 3 or top 5 of their songs of all time.
Yeah.
Every time I hear it, it's just, my God, this is amazing. And it's the version that's on Exit Stage Left. I like the tiniest little bit better, but the one I fell in love with was the one on Farewell to Kings. To this day, every time I hear it, I'm like, my God, this is like this. Any other band, if they had made just that would have been their whole career. That would have been their, Stairway to Heaven or Iron Man or whatever. And they just kept knocking them out over and over again. It's a brilliant tune. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Definitely. I was feeling kind of a little light in my shoes, kind of walking along like nobody knows what I'm listening to right now, but it's absolutely magical, So,
exactly.
Yeah, I did. I felt like a wizard or something. Anyway, Guitar World posted an article this past week titled Why Canada is Home to Some of the World's Most Exciting Hard Rock Guitar Players. The article includes interview snippets with members of some newer Canadian bands known for their six-string work, and Rush's Alex Lifeson gets a mention. Quote, I prefer guitar players who are able to tell stories through what they play, says pup guitarist Steve Sladowski, who cites Mitchell and Bruce Cockburn as some of his favorite Canadian players. Quote, even someone like Alex Lifeson is somehow an understated guitar player. Very true. Playing in Rush in a power trio, he's happy to play what needs to be there. There's some way of playing this really technical music and really proggy, but never overplaying. Speaking of lurks, UltimateGuitar.com posted their list of the 25 most underrated guitarists of all time last Friday, and Alex Lifeson came in at number 1. I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yep. And
I'm someone who has underrated him in the past.
Yeah.
So I agree with that 100%. Yeah, he does not get nearly the credit he deserves.
Another underrated guitarist is David Gilmour.
I think he's actually appropriately rated because I think most people, they like him instantly. Just the way they respond to him, it's not the same as like that. That he's this really like pyrotechnic guitar player, but you just see the effect that his playing has on people.
Yeah.
And he's not doing much. He's a very understated player, but you don't really think about it. It's just that's the right note. That's the right note.
He's very masterful. He's a very masterful.
I love him. He's one of my absolute favorites. Yeah. Absolutely.
Same here, man. So moving on with the UltimateGuitar.com posting this, saying, and on the top spot we have the almighty Alex Lifeson of Rush. Now we here are all aware of his impeccable guitar playing and composing skills. However, it seems that he never got enough time under the spotlight since everyone's been focusing on Geddy Lee and Neil Peart. So the Ultimate guitar player community have decided to pay tribute to one of the most innovative, influential, and underrated guitar players of all time. Just take a listen to La Villa di Strangiato and witness his greatness. Classic Rock, very true. Classic Rock magazine is putting together a list of the greatest live albums ever, and they're asking readers to help them out on loudersound.com. Rush's All the World's a Stage and Exit Stage Left are in the running, so go there and vote. Speaking of Exit Stage Left, last week was the 39th anniversary, as we mentioned, of the album's 81 release. I'm gonna have to give that another listen.
Yeah,
I don't really pull that up a lot to listen to. I kind of just stream a lot of and put my iTunes on random, but I'll have to specifically put that on, listen to it all the way through. I haven't in a while.
I tend to specifically listen to it. I mean, the way that I rank my albums generally is just based on what do I notice I keep going back to. So I mean, it's not even really a conscious thing. It's just, oh, there it is again. There it is again. So
Yeah. Well, last show we mentioned a committee, and previous in the show as well, we mentioned a committee tasked for producing a Neil Peart memorial in the late drummer's hometown of Port Dalhousie, which raised well over $10,000 from sales of their Rush-themed Lakeside Park T-shirts. Since then, the response has been incredible. They put out a message to the Rush fan community, to the Rush as a band community. Thank you. Today, because of your actions, we have crossed the $20,000 mark on our journey to commemorate Neil Peart in Lakeside Park. But with such success, we face a small issue. You cleared out our inventory. Our tiny team is working diligently to get your orders out ASAP. We've had to order more T-shirts, which means some of your orders may be delayed by 3 weeks plus delivery. Keep those orders coming in. It'll help our future orders. We sincerely appreciate your support and need it now more than ever as you bear with us as we fulfill your amazing turnout. Task Force Chair David Duraco and Task Force member Chris O'Connor will be on with us, Two Guys Talking Rush, live November 21st at 7 p.m. via Facebook, Rush as a Band Facebook page, and rushradio.org Facebook page. So join us for that conversation. You can also get these T-shirts and order them and inundate them further at Pt.Dalhousie, DALHOUSIE.com for $29.99 and support this effort to commemorate one of the legends in the music industry, Neil Peart. A new book from British author Richard Houghton titled Rush, The Day I Was There is slated for release November 13th. My birthday, November 13th. I'm turning the big 50. I don't know if I should be spreading that news, but it's horrible news, actually.
No, it's great news, and premature congratulations.
I made it to 50.
Not everyone can say that, and
that's so true.
I'm grateful that you're here and that we're doing this, and may you have many years, decades ahead of you.
Hopefully I plan on that. On that. Well, the 370-page book features stories and memories from over 400 Rush fans. The publisher's description says, with previously unseen photos and fan memorabilia, Rush, The Day I Was There, brings together over 400 previously unpublished eyewitness accounts to allow the reader to take a journey back in time and recapture the experience of seeing live the greatest ever power trio and rock. Orders made via the publisher before November 13th release date will include a limited edition hardback copy signed by the author with shipping available worldwide. You can go to www.thisdayinmusicbooks, all one word, .com. Hey, what do you know? This brings us to our very special guest today, author Richard Houghton, talking about his book, his newly upcoming release book, Rush, The Day I Was There. Welcome, Richard Houghton, to Two Guys Talking Rush.
How are you doing? Everything okay with you and your family, and all good?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we're in national lockdown here in the UK, so
right, yeah. What does that involve for you?
2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all the bars are shut, all the restaurants are shut, grocery stores are open, but regular stores, hardware stores and such like are closed. I have an office job. I've been working from home since March now, so it's just no change in that regard. But the streets are really empty. You go out at night and there's nobody around whatsoever, so it's really strange, like a bomb has just dropped.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I think the way people should respond to that is by reading. For example, reading a new book about the fan experience of seeing Rush, for example. And as it turns out, you have written just such a book. Is that not true?
That is true. Well, I haven't written it. 380 Rush fans have written it. I've just pulled it all together, polished one or two of those stories to make them a bit more readable, and then yeah, my publisher has taken it on, and it's coming out next Friday, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, lucky Friday the 13th. By the time this goes out, it will probably have come out already, like about a week after or something like that.
Okay, great.
Well, Richard, welcome to Two Guys Talking Rush. And, you know, we're going to ask you a lot of Rush questions, so bear with us on that. So
Okay.
where are you from? And I know one thing about looking at your background, you specialize in oral histories of bands and, you know, fans telling their stories, and you know, you kind of focus in on capturing people's memories of shows. Tell us how, you know, where you're from, how you kind of got into this focus of writing.
Okay, so I live in Manchester in England, and you know, Manchester has a big musical history. Everybody knows about the Beatles, which are from Liverpool, which is about 30 miles down the road. But Manchester is the home of the Hollies. You know, Graham Nash, who went on to be in Crosby, Stills and Nash, was in the original Hollies lineup. It's the home of Oasis. It's the home of the Bee Gees. I actually live about half mile from the very school where Barry Gibb and his younger brothers all went to school when they were 7 years old. So they're associated with being from Australia, but they actually lived in England when they were very young before they emigrated, and then came back to bring disco to the world, of course. But we won't get into that. And so I've lived in this part of the world now for 25 years. I actually grew up much nearer to London, so I don't have what people would recognise as a Northern English accent. Everybody in the north of England thinks I sound very posh because I sound like the Queen. Yeah, I can live with that. And I started getting into the idea of writing oral histories of bands because I, you know, like a lot of people, I read a lot of books about music, and I got quite a few books on the Rolling Stones. And Mick Jagger turned 70 in 2014, and I went to see the Stones play a gig in Stockholm in Sweden. And it occurred to me as Mick was on stage that these guys had been playing for 50 years, and that there must be people who'd seen them play 50 years ago who weren't able to view YouTube the video. They weren't filming it on their mobile phone 50 years ago because that kind of stuff didn't exist. Those memories, if they got them, were probably in their heads, or they've been told to their family or their friends, or they told them to their friends down the pub. And I just thought it'd be a nice idea to try and capture some of those memories of the Stones going back to the early 1960s. So I wrote to a load of local newspapers in England, got people wrote to me, gave me their stories, and I published a book about the Stones. And people said, you've done the Stones, you should do the Beatles. So I did the Beatles. And then they said, you've done the Beatles, you should do all these other bands. And so I've done The Who, and I've done Pink Floyd, and I've done Led Zeppelin. I'm actually wearing a Led Zeppelin promo shirt.
Yes.
Right here. Excuse me. But the criteria for all of those bands was bands that I was either a huge fan of or I'd seen in concert. So I actually saw the Beatles in concert in 1965. I was only 4 years old at the time, and I don't remember anything about it. But my folks took me to the Hammersmith Odeon in London, and we went to see the Beatles Christmas show in 1964.
Wow.
And I've seen the Stones, as I've talked about. Haven't seen the Floyd. Did see Zeppelin. Did see the Who, albeit not with Keith, because Keith Moon had died the year before I saw them. And I saw Rush. And Rush are a band that I love. And I thought, why not do a book about Rush?
Well, that was my next question to you was, are you actually a fan of Rush?
I am a fan of Rush. I mean, I'm 60 years old now, and I got into guitar bands, into rock, heavy rock, as it was called in England at the time. I don't know what it was called in the US, maybe. Might have been called something different. But my friends and I, when I was about 15, started getting into Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and Zeppelin and smaller bands like Budgie. They're a big Welsh band.
Yeah.
And then punk came along. So we got the Stranglers, we got the Clash, we got the Sex Pistols, a lot of guitar-based music, but obviously not the classic heavy rock stuff. And I had friends who were into Genesis and friends who were into Yes, so I got into a bit of that as well. And then when I went to university, I met a guy who said, "What about Rush?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about, I'm afraid." And he had a denim jacket with a Starman embroidered on the back of it. And he had all of the albums up to and including Permanent Waves. And that's how I got into them, because they didn't get radio play in England. The only place you would really hear any heavy rock, any metal type music on national radio on the BBC was on something called the Friday Rock Show by a DJ called Tommy Vance, who's sadly no longer with us. And that was on 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock on a Friday night. And obviously, when you're 17 or 18, you're in the pub on a Friday night. You're not stuck at home listening to the radio. So the few occasions when Rush got played on the radio would have been then. So I'd never heard of them before until my friend at university said, "You should be listening to this." So that's how I discovered them. I was 19 years old, and I'd been listening to other bands, rock music, but Rush had managed to pass me by in that time.
So you got into Rush around the age of 19? That's what you're saying,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I guess that opens up a good for Dan and I to focus in on, because I don't think we've ever talked to a Rush fan from the UK. We've talked to other people that are involved with Rush from the UK, like, we interviewed Stephen Taylor. He was a mixing engineer on the Presto and Roll the Bones albums. But what, I imagine that your book covers both American and UK fan perspectives on Rush. Am I correct, or is it just solely UK?
No, it's both.
Okay, so with that said, what could you tell us about the differences in fans from the UK and the US? Are there any differences, or is it just these people love Rush and they're excited about it?
I think there's lots of differences. I think there's lots of differences about the whole concert going experience between the US and the UK, or there used to be. Maybe that's not the case anymore. But, there's lots of stories in the book about guys and girls going to concerts in the US and having a tailgate party before going into the show and having a few beers in the car park, maybe arriving at the show 3 o'clock in the afternoon, having a few beers, smoking a few joints, then going into the show. In England, well, number one, the bands didn't play such big venues up until around 1981, 82. The biggest venue in England was the Hammersmith Odeon, which accommodated 4,000 fans. It's right in the middle of London. There's no parking lot anywhere nearby. You couldn't have a tailgate party at Hammersmith Odeon because there's nowhere to park up. So what you would do is you'd get the train, or you'd get the tube, the subway to the show, or you get a bus. And maybe you would go for a drink in the pub nearby, but you certainly wouldn't get together with 5,000, 10,000 other Rush fans and have a few beers and a few hot dogs outside the show, because that just wasn't possible.
Right.
And I think that, the drug culture wasn't the same either. The availability of cannabis for kids to smoke in the US in the late 70s, early 80s, and the whole concert going experience where people would light up a spliff just wasn't the same in the UK. I'm not saying nobody smoked dope or it just wasn't happening at all, but it was much more restricted, and you didn't have the cops turning a blind eye ever in the UK to that kind of thing. Whereas from what the stories people have told me, it depended on your local police department, but you didn't always get aggravation at concert if people were passing joints around at a Rush gig.
Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys.
tuned for part 2 of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast next week. That's not nice.
Live music inspires millions around the world, but the concerts we all enjoy wouldn't be possible without the countless crew members working behind the scenes. As COVID-19 puts concerts on pause, we want to extend a helping hand to the touring and venue crews who depend on shows to make a living. Crew Nation was created to do just that. Crew members are the backbone of the live music industry, and we hope you'll join us in supporting them through this temporary intermission until we can once again unite millions around the world through the power of live music. Crew Nation is powered by Music Forward Foundation, a charitable 501c3 organization that will be administering the fund. Live Nation has committed $10 million to Crew Nation, contributing an initial $5 million to the fund, then matching the next $5 million given by artists, fans, and employees dollar for dollar. Please support Crew Nation at www.livenationentertainment.com/Crew Nation.